Good morning, folks, and welcome back to the shop. Today we have got something that I've messed around with before, but I've never really worked on one of them. I guess I could say I've used a couple of them before, but never really worked on one of them. And never had one as fancy as this one. This is a Perfecrion stove. And this is one of the more desirable ones with the glass in the center so that you can see the flame burning when you're burning your kerosene heater. We've also got another one here that Dad's had, and this one we've used before. This one's my Uncle Bob's, and I actually think he's used this before. I'm pretty sure he's used it years ago, back in the 90s. This is another kerosene heating stove. This is an Aladdin brand one that's my dad's, and I know we've had this lit back in the 90s. So there's no reason it shouldn't just light right up. We just had it going a few days ago back in the 90s.
Yeah, 45 years ago.
But first things first, and in case it turns into a bigger, longer project than I expect, we're going to start with the old Perfecrion heater. And Uncle Bob said it needs a new wick in it, so he found a place, Caro World, to buy a new wick for it. Hopefully it's the correct one for this. Perfecrion models 525, 730, 735, 750, 770, 810, 822, and all 500 series. That's like just all of them basically. I don't have any clue if this even says anywhere on it what
What is it?
model it is.
Maybe it's tagged somewhere, but I don't see it.
Maybe on the burner itself. People are going to give me shit because I didn't put my rubber mat down here and I'm just grinding the bottom of this heater off on our metal tabletop.
That heater's been ground a lot on other stuff. Off the cement floors.
All right, let's crack this open and get, ooh, jeez. I mean, obviously you can tell by looking, it's dirty. It's been sitting in his back shed for years. There's, up inside of there, full of spider webs and everything, but down here is even worse. And there's the burner. I think I'm going to start things out by turning the air compressor on and getting the blowgun and blowing the spider webs out of this thing. Okay, well that's a good start towards cleaning this thing up, but I need to clean it up a little bit better than that. I wonder how hard it is to... Yeah, I don't know about that. I was thinking, I wonder how hard it is to get that apart. So you can get in there to clean that glass and everything, but it's got stove bolts that bolt down the supports. You can see running down through there, and then they go all the way up to the top. I guess the top does look like it is just, yeah, you're not going to be able to see it worth a darn, but maybe right in through there. The bolts that come in from the top just go through those support arms. So perhaps I can take out the 2 screws up here and pop it apart so we can get inside of there and clean it up good. They definitely look like they have been taken out before. Tip the camera up so you can kind of see what I'm doing. This is almost too tall. I need a taller tripod out here. I'm not going to go home and get my other tripod. There's no nut on the bottom of these. They just go into that tall.
Well, looks like it ain't doing nothing.
It is. It's coming apart. It's almost like these screws have a keeper on the bottom side of the top up here to keep them from... Yeah, they do. They got a square nut on the bottom of each of those screws so that the screws are captured and can't just get lost, which is an okay deal. That definitely makes it easier to get in here and clean all this up. These Perfecrion stoves bring a pretty good price when they turn up for sale, and I have been watching for one for a while, never came across one. Bob's had this one for a long time. And they came in all different colors. I know you could get way fancier ones and then like more of a baseline model one. There was a lot of choices in them. Here, burner just sits down in here, so it sits on these little tabs. And well, we'll get into the burner more after I get this cleaned up a little bit more. I'm just going to spend a few minutes knocking the cobwebs and dust off of this thing. And I'll get everything knocked loose and I'll get the blow gun and blow it again and get all the debris knocked off of here. Oh, that little trim piece in there is just a separate little ring that pops out of there. Just must be a filler between the glass and the metal. There we go. That's not perfect. If I was really worried about getting it cleaned up good, I would get some more high temp paint. Actually, if it was mine, I probably would get some high temp paint in, I don't know, maybe like kind of close to the color of Dad's heater, a robin's egg blue or some different color. But I see pictures of them and they came in all different colors, and some of them were quite fancy. Dad took the glass back to the bathroom sink and cleaned it up good. That's where he always goes with the globes. When he grabs the globe off the lanterns, he's usually heading back to the bathroom sink. And I guess if I'm cleaning, I might as well clean off that top quick too, and then we can just concentrate on the burner. This poor old thing, the glass is in good shape, but the poor thing sat somewhere for a long time. It's even got a rust hole with it's actually rusted through the metal there, and it's pitted. So it definitely did sit somewhere for a long time, but all in all, it's still in pretty decent shape. And the good thing about one being in this condition is you can still take it out in the garage and light it and use it for heat out in the garage. Don't have to worry about it being perfect condition and you're going to mess it up. The only thing I would worry about is breaking that glass. I wouldn't be surprised if they make a reproduction glass for these now, but if, like everything, yeah, the reproduction is probably okay, but it's not
better than
as good as the originals. Alright, now we can talk a little bit more about the burners on these. The burners on these work very much the same way that an Aladdin lamp works. So the burner on these and the burner on the Aladdin lamp are very similar to each other. And I don't know why I've never done a video on my Aladdin lamp. That is something we could do. Right here on the burner, now that it's been blown off a little bit, it says, yeah, that camera's not going to pick that up at all. I'll snap a picture of it with my phone. It says right on there, use only number 500 Perfecrion wick. So, I believe that wick will be correct for this. Now, the way that these work is they are a center draft. There was old round wick center draft kerosene lamps too. I've got a couple of those at home that I've never got going because I don't have the correct chimneys for any of them. But the round wick with the center draft made a much brighter light, and then when they went to the round wick like in these heaters and in a Aladdin lamp, they burn even hotter. They get enough of a draft. The burners are designed so they make enough draft to actually burn a bright blue flame instead of a yellow flame. And when you get to that point where you're getting that bright blue flame, you're getting almost perfect combustion. That's what they call it, perfect combustion, where it burns all the fuel. So even though you're burning a kerosene heater in your house, you get almost no kerosene smell at all from it. And that is the goal of these heaters, to completely burn the kerosene so you don't get the kerosene smell. And then on an Aladdin lamp, you completely burn the kerosene and get a hot enough, blue enough flame to heat up a mantle like what's on a Coleman lantern, and get that bright incandescent light that you get out of a mantle lamp by burning kerosene. Now I'm going to have to take a look at this because I've never worked on one of these before. Like I said, we have used them. I had an old one that I used to use in my garage at my old house, but it was not a Perfecrion brand. It was some other brand. They made, just like lamps and lanterns and everything else, 100 or 1,000 different companies back in the day were all trying to make the same thing and make a buck. But on this little tab here, there's an arrow on pointing to the right, or to the left, and off pointing to the right. So I don't know if that's to put this on there or to turn it on and off. Nope, it's threading out of there. Well, that lets that much move, but that still doesn't do anything. There we go. That's got like a cam lock on that, and that is your flame spreader. So you've got, when you've got the draft coming up the middle, this is basically forcing that draft to blow right out on the flame from the wick. So you're getting a lot of oxygen to that flame to get a good, perfect flame that burns very, very clean. Now that can pop right out of there. And honestly, I don't know if that wick really needs to be replaced, but we've got a new one. We might as well put it in there. Oh, come on. There we go.
There's a lot of wick there. Well, we'll put it back in the plastic.
Yeah, we'll save it. It definitely might be still a usable wick, but
Sure,
let's look at how much wick there is above the, like this is a wick riser part here. Let's look and see how much wick there is above that on the new one. Ugh, the inside of that needs cleaned out too. No, not. It's not insignificant. There is a fair amount more wick on the new one. So this one's definitely been used some, but I would certainly think that that still is a usable wick to keep around as a spare. Fold it up just like the new one was, put it back in the bag, and when Uncle Bob takes this home, he can take that back home with him and save it.
put it somewhere and forget where you put it.
The wick on these, and on a Aladdin lamp also, is interesting because it's split down the side, because it has to go around well, maybe this isn't as much as the round wick lanterns that I've got at home. They have to go around like the parts that hold this center part in there, but this one's just held in at the bottom. see what it's got for instructions here. Instructions, para la instruccione de la mecha.
Yeah.
Wick installation instructions, shaft type. Oh, locate the owner's manual that came with your kerosene heater.
Okay.
We're off to a good start there.
Yeah, we're done.
Following the instructions on owner's manual, remove the batteries. This thing ain't got batteries in it. Assembly knob, cartridge tank, if removable, and protective grill. So obviously this fits much newer
Yeah.
lamps than that. With shaft clip, look down, blah, 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 blah. Some models have a spring case located behind the knob. We don't have that. So yeah, these instructions do me little to no good. Okay, let's see. Definitely some debris in there. Ooh, goodness. There's awful lot of residue down in there. We'll see if we can get the camera to point down in there. Awful lot of residue on the bottom of there. So I'm going to try to break that loose and clean it out a little bit. We'll pause the camera and then we'll come back in a few minutes. Okay, I got all the loose stuff knocked out of there. It's not like a Coleman lantern where it's going to suck up a chunk and plug the tip or something. So I just wanted to get the loose debris out of there. Now let's see if we can get this wick threaded down on there. We gotta line up the wick riser like little notches with the teeth from this handle that raise it up and down. And you've got to make sure that none of the fabric is bunching up. I don't know if I can get the camera point down there or not. But you got to look down in there and make sure that none of the fabric is bunching up like it is right over on this side, on top of the chimney in there. So you got to keep spreading it out, pulling it down to get it all started down over there evenly. There we go. Poke all the wick down in there, and then you can kind of turn it and line it right up. Before I go any farther, I'll try to get a shot. Actually, I'll just take a picture with my camera and edit it in. I know it'll do a better job than the GoPro does. But you have to line up these slots in here that the gear actually turns up and down with the gear that's down in there. Get it where it's not in the shadow here. And you got to keep tucking the wick down in there too, so it goes down to where it belongs. There we go. There we go. Now the wick riser knob is raising and lowering the wick down on there. I don't think this is going to be quite as critical as on an Aladdin lamp, trying to get the wick trimmed absolutely perfectly square on it. But sometimes on an Aladdin lamp they make a wick trimmer. I've tried to use it. It didn't really go over well. Never really worked well for me. And what I ended up doing on that was burning it for a while. And then, well, here, I'll show you. This piece goes back in here. And on my Aladdin lamp, I ended up burning it for a while and then turning it up to where the wick was just past the top, taking a razor blade and trimming it off all the way around there so that you had an absolutely perfectly flat, smooth wick surface. If this doesn't burn well right away, that's what we may end up doing, burning it so you get that end charred a little bit, and then you can crank it up and trim off your charred end all the way around there so you've got a perfectly smooth, even edge. And after it's been burned, it takes care of all these little frillies off around the edge of it. Yeah, those instructions don't really help out at all.
The instructions for something.
Well, let's see. Bob brought his own kerosene down for filling this up.
If you can figure out how to get it out of that can.
Yeah. I think you just... Oh, there we go. There we go. That's about 2/3 full.
That probably burned quite a while.
There is a little gauge over here. I don't know if it works though.
The line's got a gauge on it too.
Well, it's pointing at 3/4 and it moves around when you tip it there. Right there. So my guess is that it works. We probably got 3/4 of a tank of fuel in there.
Take a while to soak in there, I bet.
Well, that's soaking up. We can crank that down a little farther and get this put back in there.
Just a diverter for...
Yeah,
Yeah.
they call it on an Aladdin lamp, it's actually the flame spreader's a little cap, but yeah, it makes it draw the air up and push the air right out into where the flame's burning.
Yeah.
And this kind of rises up and down right on top of that wick, so I'll bet it also, like there, you're not supposed to crank the wick up any higher than when that is topped out, and then that probably you can just turn it down and maybe smothers the flame for you.
Yeah.
Well, while that is soaking up, we can set this aside and put the rest of the heater back together. Now that that glass is cleaned up a little bit, you can maybe see where it cast right into it. Perfection. And then that's their little triangle shaped logo there. We'll put that on so it's lined up. Let's see, do I want that lined up with the knob's gonna be coming out right there? Yeah, I'll put it so that it's lined up with the front of the latch on it. And that does sit right down into that little metal ring that I had out of there. I actually think I'm going to take this out, flip it over, and try to put this ring around there first. There we go. Perfect. Right in there, just like it's supposed to be. Leo is a lot rougher with his lanterns than we are with ours. Of course, right when I try to film him, there he goes. When his lanterns don't work right, he takes a really rough approach to fixing them.
Dennis gave him a good present, didn't he?
Yep. I don't know if there's... Well, there is a difference in the front and the back. There's a bump on the glass that has to be lined up.
There is. I've seen that.
And that might be fun to try to get. Looks like that side's lined right up if I can get a couple threads in there. Go in there and drop down. Yeah, I don't think that screw is actually going into anything. Nope. Well, as much as I don't want to hit that when it's not bolted together well. That side's captured, so the glass can't fall clear out. Now I can tip that and try to get uh-oh, I think it dropped in right there. Just wiggling around that support that comes up for this screw to go into, and it feels like the screw just lined right up with the hole there. And it did. I can see through the top here and see that it is threading in right where it belongs. And like most things heat related, don't torque these screws down super tight. Everything's going to heat up and expand and move a little bit So it just needs to be tight enough to hold the glass in place. Don't crank it down super hard.
Nice looking stove.
And then the burner sets right down in there. Just like that. Your knob goes out through the side. That wick still feels dry, so it's still soaking up here. So while that is taking a minute to soak up, let's take a quick look at this Aladdin kerosene heater. Same concept. Ooh, that wick looks nasty in there. Same concept though. You got a burner. The top half of it works as a chimney to draft air in through there.
How do you crank it up and down? Glass.
There is no mechanism to crank that up and down. Well, look at all of the spider webs and stuff down in there.
Wow.
Been sitting at the bottom of the stairs back here in the back of the shop for 30 years.
Or longer.
Alright, give me a minute to check this out and see if I can figure out what we got going on here. Okay, we were messing around with this just a little bit. This knob on here, if you turn it a long ways one way or the other, it seems like it bottoms out going either way. So it definitely has some threads. And it's trying to move something up and down. But that's going to be a bigger project than just looking at it for 30 seconds, lighting it up.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if you are interested in seeing this stove,
Put that back.
I'll put it back in there. Get this stove back working. I would not even be opposed to, if people wanted to see it, I wouldn't mind finding some paint to match this enamel and repaint the base and these like the heat shield pieces. I don't know. Leave it down in the comment if you want to see more on this Aladdin blue flame heater in the future. Leave a comment. It's in good enough shape. We certainly could find a wick for it. And like I said, I would not be opposed, since it's kind of beat up and scratched up here, to cleaning this up and kind of restoring it. Not something I normally do, but I think that this would look pretty sharp, especially since the blue porcelain coated stuff on the top is all still in pretty good shape. So leave a comment down below if you want to see some more content on this Aladdin blue flame heater in the future. But I'm guessing by now that wick ought to be soaked up. Okay, let's see if that wick has gotten soaked up yet. Here, let's see here. Bring that back out of there. I can't really. Oh yeah, it's soaked up. It's kind of hard to tell by looking at it, but when I squeeze it, I got oil on my fingers, so it's got fuel soaked up there. I think it's probably not meant to be cranked up any higher than that. Up to where it tops that out is probably the highest setting they recommend you run it on. It's probably going to burn like crazy at first because there's a lot of little frills and stuff around the edge of that are going to burn off. But should be able to light it and just kind of spread the flame all the way around like that. So it goes all the way around there, and we can calm that down a little bit. And then once we close the chimney, that flame should go from that yellow ratty flame to a much more controlled flame. And I do believe that these Perfecrion heaters that are with the glass are designed to have a yellow flame.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to be as efficient as the newer ones because they want you to be able to see the flame in it. That's part of the purpose of having it visible where you can look in and see the flame. It adjusts up and down nice. You can turn it way down if you don't want so much heat. Or crank it up more, get a little bit more heat and a little more light. Let's shut off some lights in here and get another shot of it. There we go.
That's nice.
That is nice. And they put out pretty fair amount of heat coming out the top of them. Not bad at all. I can hold my hand right there close to the top, but it's definitely hot. You wouldn't want to...
Probably take a while to make a pot of coffee, but...
Yeah. Well, that is pretty cool. Uncle Bob should be happy with that.
Yep. Probably put that on the front porch of his house. That
yeah.
It's closed in. So.
Yep. That would be a good thing to do with it.
Yeah.
And certainly don't get a strong kerosene smell from it. I think I can smell a little bit now from when I first lit it and it was burning. You could see all the soot coming up off of it. But very nice. I am definitely going to keep watching for one of these. I would like to have one to have out in my garage when I hang around out there in the wintertime. So I think that's going to wrap it up for this video. Thanks for watching, everybody. We do appreciate each and every view. If you want to help support our channel, I say this all the time, the best thing you can do to support our channel right now is just let all those ads play when they come up. I know they get boring. If it's a long ad, watch the first 30 seconds. That's enough to make it count for me. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I know that about 70% of my viewers are not subscribed to the channel, so if you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share the video if there's anybody that you know that you think might enjoy this. And come on back next week. We will definitely have a video of something here for you to watch. Thanks again, folks.